Welcome everyone, my name is Toshmatov and I'm a certified web developer. I work as an IT manager and web architect at one of the healthcare organizations in Manhattan, New York. In this tutorial, I'd like to teach you how to create a basic website and simply how to begin your journey into the web development. Let's briefly get to know each other and set some expectations for this tutorial. If you are a beginner in web development or always want to learn how the web works, then this is for you. Or if you're pursuing your degree in computer science or information technology and wanting to improve your knowledge about the web development, then it is for you. If you're an expert and always know ins and outs of the web development, then you might find this tutorial a bit boring. But hey, if you want to stick around and never know, you might learn something new. But either way, I welcome everyone and let's go ahead and get started. Well, we all know what the development is. Web development is the coding or programming that enables website functionality. So we use the web development or a product of web development almost every day, from going to Facebook to social networks or logging to the bank or just reading the newspaper online. Those applications that you see every day, those are web development. Those are product of web development. So it mainly deals with the non-design aspect of the building websites, which includes coding and writing markup. Web development ranges from creating plain text pages to complex web-based applications like social network application, business applications, or just a simple personal website. So the web development hierarchy is as follows, the following. So in web development, there is a client-side coding, there is a server-side coding, and the database technology. So the scope of this tutorial is go over the web development components fundamentals. So what we're going to talk about is, so the first step is we're going to set up our web server. And also we're gonna start creating a simple web page with HTML. And then we're gonna design it with the CSS and maybe start writing some PHP in the server side. And that's our goal for this tutorial. So if I may describe this in a simple language, web server is a technology that allows your audience or users to access your files. So this user wants to access one of your files, or image, right? And they have to go through the cloud, which is www, World Wide Web. So of course it's the internet, right? So you have to connect to the internet, and then from the internet, then you have the technology, HTTP, the web server technology, which allows you to connect to your host. This host can be your local computer, it could be your machine on remote server, or it could be cloud, for example, AWS. Okay, and that enables you basically connect to your server, to your files. That's how you communicate. That's what's called web server. Okay. All right. As I mentioned earlier, what we need to build the web page is, first thing we need is a web server. So web server, there is a software that's where it's almost like a file management, basically. So we're going to be using the XAMPP. So XAMPP has Apache, that's a server, web server, and there's a PHP, that's the scripting language, that's a backend language or server-side language, and then the MySQL. MySQL is a database language, or I would say database management software. So this is more of like a technical description for web server. A web server is a program that uses HTTP hypertext transfer protocol to serve the files that form web pages to users in response to the requests, which are forwarded by the computer's HTTP clients. Dedicated computers and appliances may be referred to as a web server as well. Okay, now the second step is we need to set up a virtual host, local or cloud hosting. In this case, we're going to be setting up a local host. And of course, then last step is we're going to go ahead and start coding. Okay, next step is I want you to open up a browser and let's start Googling. So what we need is we need the XAMPP. So I'm using the MacBook Pro. MacBook Pro is an Apple product. Oops, sorry about that. All right, and then once you find it, you click on that the link, and there are different operating systems. So you might be running Windows, you might be running Linux or Mac operating system. So more likely you're going to be running either Windows, most likely Windows, or the Apple product, right? So either way, so what you need is for Windows, you need to come to this section and you need to install one of these. So I would recommend installing 7.1 or 7.2. That's the PHP version. Okay. Um, if you are Linux developer and you're using one of those Linux flavors like SUSE or Red Hat or Fedora or Ubuntu, then you should have access to browser, obviously the GUI side, the graphical user interface. Then you can install any of these. But in this case, we're going to be using, since I am on MacBook Pro, MacBook Pro uses the operating system X, iOS, and then you can pick any of those. So in this case, I'm going to use this one. Now, I'm going to mention that since I have already installed all those things, all the components that I don't need to run, but I'm just showing you as if I don't have that installed. All right, so click on that and just go ahead, follow the instruction. Okay, so now you have installed the web server XAMPP. XAMPP should have installed basically Apache Web Server, PHP language, compiler, and also MySQL database management. Okay, all right, the following step, now we're going to set up our virtual host. So first thing we're going to do is we will be going to what's a sudo? We need a sudo access. Sudo access is administrative privilege or role. So you need to have the administrator password for this. So sudo vim, then you need to go to etc host. All right. Now you may be asking, I can't find this on my Windows. Where should I find it, or where is this path located? Well, that's a very good question. So um, if you are on Windows operating system, then you should go to your terminal or CMD. Okay, all right, that's command line. So you need to go to open up a notepad, and then the path, the file, host file is located right here. So C Windows System 32 drivers etc host. This is, you're going to be modifying this file. But in this example, I'm using the MacBook Pro, which is operating system. So I'm going to be accessing sudo vim. Vim is vim is a text editor for native operating systems like a MacBook or Linux or anything that uses the Linux flavor or shell, basically. So, and then I'm going to access the etc host. Now it's asking me password. Why? Because I'm using the sudo. Sudo basically means this overrides everything. Now, let me roll back and just kind of give you a brief explanation what the sudo is, because it's very important. First thing is in a file systems, there's users and there's the groups. Okay, so let's say if I do the ls-all, all right, this is all the files that located in this directory. Users John Toshmatov, this is me, right? Let's say sometimes you don't know who you are, you can always say who am I. That shows that who you logged in as. Now, any files that is owned by this user, I can directly modify without sudo. That means I own them. Or any files that belong to the same group, let's say staff, for example, and I belong to that, then I can modify them. Okay. So in this case, let's go ahead, clear the screen. In this case, sudo vim etc host. etc host, actually I need the sudo user, okay? Because I don't own it. User John Toshmatov does not own it. All right. So as you can see, this is the a list of all the hosts, and I have a lot of them, as you can see. That's what I do all day. I develop web development, websites, and web applications. All right. In this case, since I already set up everything for you guys, but all I want to do is just follow my instructions here. So 127.0.0.1, which is this is the local IP. It's equal to localhost. So 127.0.0.1, and that is we can put whatever the web hosting domain name. If you want to put whatever you want, I just in this case I put my-it-education.us or .com.net. It doesn't matter. Okay, so do exactly what I instructed here. So just put 127.0.0.1. If you want to follow along right now, and once you become familiar, then you can always go back and change it. Okay. All right. Wonderful. So now let's go ahead and switch to the next step. So let's get out of this application, this text editor. So in your case, you're going to be writing WQ. It's basically mean write and quit. So since I already set it up and I don't want to save, so I can just say quit. So we're going to open up the XAMPP virtual host file. And we can do this by vim. So it is located in applications, XAMPP files, etc extra, and the file name is httpd-vhost. Okay, so if I hit enter, and this is the virtual host. Now in your case, you might have a sample example, which is right here. It's commented out. So either you can copy that since you don't have it, or you can just type exactly how I typed it here. Now, this is what we have just set up in etc host file. So basically, anytime you type in your browser, it basically sends us here. It's in a simple way, if I'm explain. So and then it connects. It basically takes you to this directory. So that means all the files are located in this directory right here. Okay, so it's basically saying that, hey, this is my server name, and also I can use the aliases with the star.myiteducation.us. What's the star? Star is a wildcard, so that means that let me show you. Instead of star, you can use www, demo, or API, whatever. So that's what it means. That means you can use any subdomains you want, except as a service alias. Okay, and of course this one has an error log, custom log. An error log is very important. You need to know the health of your web server. So let's say if there's an error message on your screen and some reason that you can't see in detail, then you need to open up the log. The log will basically tell you about everything about your web server. Okay, and let's get out of here now. So since now we have installed both the hosting and then of course the virtual host, now we can go ahead and restart the XAMPP. So there are two ways you can start it. One is just by going to application, and then you can restart it. It's on the bottom tray, or you can just type the command. So in this case, of course I'm gonna use the sudo again, because this is the file that my username does not own. So I'm gonna say applications. That's the location. All right, XAMPP and XAMPP file. So good thing about the operating system like Linux or anything that uses Linux flavors, all you have to do is just type the first two letters and then click tab. It'll basically finds it for you. It'll find the closest or even exactly the folder or file. So if I type XAMPP, as you can see, I just type three letters and I just hit the tab, and then it fills in for me. So in this case, I'm going to type a restart. and then I'm gonna hit enter. Voila, as you can see, it stopped it, and then it started. It basically restart the Apache, and it restart the MySQL. Okay, those are two things. Apache already has the PHP, and then that has MySQL. And do not have to worry about these FTP things. We're not going to cover this in this tutorial. Okay, there we go. So all we have to do, just go ahead, test and see if it's working. All right. Okay. So far we have completed step 1, setting up the web server. Okay. And number 2 is we set up the virtual web hosting. Okay. And of course we are at this step number 3 right now. Okay. There we go. Just need the following applications to edit our files. So what we need is one of these. Either you need a Notepad, Notepad++, the Atom, Eclipse, or PHP Storm, which is the one that I'm using right now, or VIM or Nano. Okay, so the VIM, you saw that early, I added the text etc host file. So it's up to you, whichever you want to pick. But the Notepad by default already comes in the Windows operating systems, and the Vim and Nano, it's in the terminal. You can just open up your terminal. Okay. Okay, so now you have to open up your the files and folders of your web applications, and those are located. So either you can open up the PHP Storm or the Vim, but either way, you have to access the application folder directory. So I'm going to say open, click on applications, find the XAMPP application, and then all the files, web files are located in the htdocs directory. And in this case, we're going to open up the My Education. Okay, there we go. So I just open up current. Now I have the directory open, and obviously I don't have anything set up. I have not created any files, any folders, and that's what I'm going to do right now. Now, first thing you're going to do is either you can create here. I can just say PHP file, and then I'm going to call it index. So by default, index PHP or index HTML by default a landing page, basically. That's the landing file. That's the first file every time you open up a web page. That's what the index file is going to be called or opened. Okay. All right, there we go. So I created an index file. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and let's go ahead and set up. Let's just say something. Say hello. Okay. So we're going to just say welcome to our My IT Education tutorial. Okay, so let's go ahead and save it, and then if we open up the browser, let's go open up the browser now, and in this case we're going to say my tutorial www. There we go, and that's the URL. That's the hosting that we set up in etc hosting file, and then also the virtual hosting on XAMPP. See that? Exactly. So now anything that I do now here, it's basically show up here, and that's the basic required components that we built to create a web page. All right. So earlier we talked about our kind of a mini plan for this tutorial. The first step was the setting up the web server. So now we can go ahead and delete that. We are already here, and now we are at number 2, and we're going to be working with HTML. So let's go ahead, delete the rest of the stuff, and let's focus on this. Okay, so what is really HTML? The HTML is not really a programming language, but it is a markup language, and it's basically the structure of the website, the web page. See, the thing is, it's not really programming language. At the same time, it's an important part of the language. You see what I mean? So without HTML, it's kind of having no fundamentals or no foundations, basically, for the web application. So HTML consists of series elements. They all markup language. That means they have tags. So you always start with the tags. You always close the tags. Okay. If you just want to type the following simple text, I want to learn web development. Or any text, doesn't matter, right? So if you were to open up this browser in a browser, you would just see a simple text. Actually, I can show you that too. So let's go ahead and delete that, and let's save it and open up in the browser. So if I refresh this page now, I want to learn web development or in the text, basically. So if you right-click and then view sources, and you'll see there's nothing there. There's no sign of HTML tags. It's just it's treating this as a simple text, plain text. Okay. So basically, what we want to do is I want to apply the HTML. So what's the HTML? We know that it consists of tags. The bunch of tags basically. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, for those of you that were really interested in to learn in depth, so I would suggest going to the W3 Schools HTML and just go click on that tutorial, and then you'll see a tutorial from the beginning, how to write proper HTML code. So the HTML tutorial basically walk you through from the beginning to all the way to the advanced. Basically, you have basic commands, which is the tags, and then you should be able to start building the forms, working with the media, graphic, images. Also, we can work with the APIs, and there's tons of HTML examples and references as well. So this actually source is very rich for knowledge. Okay, all right. So let's go back to our coding here. So what I want to do is I want to start writing proper HTML. Okay, so first thing is first, HTML always starts with the following first line command, which is the doc type HTML. Okay, and then here we're going to type HTML. Language, we're going to say English, which is US English. So this is the opening tag, which is HTML, and anything you want to close, you have to put this backward slash. This is the backslash. Okay. So next thing is we're going to type is the head, and this is we're going to type the body. Okay. So what do you put in the head? This between two tags right here. Okay, so this is where you're going to be putting the meta tags. So you're going to say, first thing you're going to do is the title. So title is going to be welcome to my first web page. Okay, so now what I did, basically I built a structure of the website. So I'm going to save, and I'm going to come back here, and if I refresh it, you notice first thing is empty, the content, because we did not put anything in body, right? So we don't have anything here yet, it's empty. But you do notice that in title, as you can see, if I mouse over, you can see the welcome to my first page right here. Welcome to my first page, which is the title right here. Okay, and you can also put the rest of the meta tags. This is where you're going to be putting the meta tag, and then say name. Then we can just say author, content, and then say John Toshmatov is the author, or in this case it can be your name. And then next thing is going to be meta. So just say name. You can put like keywords. No, actually, you know what? First thing is we're going to put is the description. Description, content, and then we're going to write what this website is about, right? So this page is about my first experience with web development. Okay, and let's do one more. You can just say meta name, and then just say keywords. Content. The keywords is used for search engine optimization, like if you want Google or Yahoo or any other search engines find your website, your page, and to display to other users or make it easier to search, then they go by the keywords. So keywords is web development, learning, and you know, PHP, CSS, and so on, right? So that's what you're gonna put. All right. So now if I save it and then come back here and refresh it, nothing has changed yet because we didn't put the content portion. So now if you right click and view page source, and this is what you see. This is what we just typed: doc type, HTML, HTML language, head, and so on. Okay. All right. So now we're gonna start writing our content. So first thing is I want to write is let's say I'm gonna write a paragraph. Paragraph start with a P, right? So I'm gonna say welcome to my page. Okay, so if I come back here and refresh it and see that right now we're just basically displaying very simple stuff, right? Now what I'm going to do is I want to make it a little bit nicer now, so I'm going to say H1, which is the header, and you can go back to tutorial, and then you can kind of understand what the header is. Okay, so if I refresh it now, you should see the text get bigger now. So now the header becomes bigger. Now there are all the way to 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then go ahead and refresh it, now you see the difference. So H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. So the bigger the H1 is, the smaller the text font size is. Okay. All right. So that's what you already saw. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and build like a simple web page. Okay, simple web page, meaning that we're gonna have header, we're gonna have content, then we're gonna have the footer. Okay, so 3 sections. So page is going to have 3 sections. Now we're gonna take advantage of the div boxes. Okay, so for that I'm gonna say div. Okay, I'm going to say this header. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that, and I'm going to say this content and footer. Okay, so if I refresh it right now, you'll see nothing but just the regular text, all 3. And then view page source, and that's what you see right now. Now we talked about HTML, right? So HTML basically builds the structure. But then if you want to make it nicer and if you want to work on the layout, design, definitely we're going to start working with CSS. So you can basically write your CSS code in 2 ways. One is inline styling, which is inside of the HTML right here. You can just type it here. You can just say style, and you can write your code here, or we can actually create, if you want to really properly, write your code, and then we have to follow the proper HTML best practice. So we can just say, link, right? And then style sheet. Let's just say what the type is, and in this case it's CSS. Href, and we're going to say CSS style.css.
Okay. Now what I just did was instead of writing a CSS code inside here in HTML, I simply create, I'm going to reference pointing to style CSS in the CSS folder, which we haven't created yet. Okay, so now if I go ahead, save it and come back and refresh it, I'm going to get an error message, which you cannot see right now, but one way you can see the error message is go to right click in your Chrome and click on inspect. Once you open up the inspect, and there are different tabs here: elements, console, source, network, performance, memory, application, security, and audit. So let's go ahead, talk about one at a time here right now. So I'm going to click on the network, and if I refresh it, and right off the bat you see that style.css, the one that I'm referencing right here, does not exist. Because how do I know? It's 404. 404. HTML has lots of statuses. So 200 is being good, successful. That means 200 is green, and anything 400, it's bad. It's basically 404 means does not exist, page does not exist, or file does not exist. And anything you see 500, that's a server-side errors. Okay, so 200, all 200s usually good. So if you see 200, that's good. If you see 400, that's the error. 500 is also error. So in this case, we're going to see, click on Style CSS. If I click on header, that means this right here does not exist. 404, not found, because we haven't created. All right, so let's go ahead and come back here, and we're going to create new directory. We're going to create a CSS folder. Okay, that's what we did right here, first portion. Now inside the CSS, we're going to create a style CSS. And you can just go style and just say style. There we go. So now we have style.css. Now if I come back here and then go ahead and refresh it, well, guess what? It turned to 200 right now, right? Yep, so that means it's found. If I click on this one, and nothing to preview right now because we don't have, but the main thing is we're looking for status 200, okay, because it had it 404 not found. Now we have 200. So that means that we connected style CSS to proper place in HTML. Okay, so one way you can go ahead, test quick, you can write your first CSS command, which is let's say I'm going to change the body color of the body. I can just say, so background, let's go ahead and pick F00, and then the GUI allows me to pick the color I want. Let's see, I want to go ahead and pick the blue color and come back here and refresh the page. There we go. So the background of my color of my page is actually turned to blue right now. Blue, thanks to CSS right here. Okay, which is referencing here. I could have done the same thing inside of here. Like for example, if I delete this, and I'm going to come back here and do the same thing. So I can just say body, background. Okay, so now refresh it. See, nothing, right? Because I deleted that, and then I could have accomplished the same thing here inside of which is fine either way. So now I'm gonna go ahead undo it. Let's go back to the way we set up, which is the proper way. Okay, good to go now. So we have a CSS ready, we have HTML, so now we can go ahead and start designing our first page. All right, in HTML, it's almost like people, right? People have names, objects have IDs. Same thing here in HTML, since they all tags almost in a group and they look alike, we have to somehow identify. For example, I have a div1, div2, div3. Somehow I need to be able to distinguish between first div, from second and from third and so on. I can have hundreds of div. Only way we can distinguish or tell apart is by giving them somehow name, like ID or class. Okay, ID, if I say this is ID div1, right? So that means that ID is unique. In the entire application, you can only use the one div1. You cannot have multiple div1s, because that's what ID is unique. It's a property of this div. So, but if you want to use the div1 so many times, then you have to use a class. Okay, so then you say div. Okay, so now I have the div class. For example, now if I want to design, change the color, change the background, or anything that applies to all three divs, then I can come back here. I can just say dot applied for a class and hashtag applied for ID. So if I have the div1, that's ID, and since it is a class, I'm going to use a div. Now here, let's say I'm going to change the background of all divs to something different, right? So let's go ahead and put kind of red. So now I can come back here and refresh it, and you see that. So now all divs are different, right? So another thing that now I'm going to have to distinguish is I need to add the header class, I need to add the content class, then I have to add the footer. Okay. All right, wonderful. So now, now I can isolate, and I can say I can target the header now. So I can work with the header since I have the header class name. So I'm going to come back here, my styling sheet, and then say header. We're gonna set the width of that div is width 100%. Then the height, let's go about 250 pixels. And then I'm gonna put the border around it, and let's put a all black. Okay. Now if I come back here and refresh it. Okay, so I'm going to minimize that. See that? That's different now. So right now, in order to tell apart, I'm going to go ahead set the background, let's say to something dark. So let's go ahead and pick the dark. There we go. So now that's dark. So if I come back here and then refresh it, we have a dark background. Okay. All right. So now let's go ahead. Same thing we're gonna do with the content and the footer. So now I'm gonna come back. Let's write the footer first. I can do the same thing. I can just copy this same code, but except I'm gonna have the a little smaller, not smaller, like the width is, the height is going to be a little less than 250 because my footer does not have as much information as a header. So I'm going to put that 100 pixels. Okay, there we go. So now I have this header and then the footer. So another thing that I'm going to teach you guys, one thing is if you want to modify your HTML on the screen, you can do so by using by taking advantage of the web developer tools, which is right here you're seeing inspect element. So you can do is you grab this right here, the arrow little icon right here, and then just point it to which part of the website you want to modify, right? In this case, see the highlighted right here sections. Okay, so let's say if I want to click on the header, all right, and then you can see a CSS portion right here. So and then go ahead, click on a height, and then use the arrow button, the key right here. You can just go make it smaller. See, now it's going smaller. This is like a visual way to edit. So let's say if you're not satisfied with the way it looks, you can actually edit it here. Okay, this is good. I want that. Okay, so now 91 pixels. I'm going to come back here to header and then change this to 91 pixels. Okay, good. So now what we can do, we can start putting pictures here, maybe images here. So what I want to do is change the content background to something white. So what I can do, I can just get rid of this entirely. So when I refresh it now, as a content, it's still not white because we haven't set the white, and the second of all is inheriting whatever the body has. The body has the blue. So one way I can specifically mention, hey, I want the content to have a white background, then I need to specifically mention that. So I can just say FFF, which is white. FFF white, 00 is black. Okay, so now if I refresh it now, you should see the white background. Okay. All right, so now next step is what we're going to design is we're going to put like a header here, like an image or logo, and then we're going to start writing the content here inside. Does that make sense? All right. So now we're going to have image. We're going to put it right here. So let's open up the page and see what we're going to put it. So basically we're going to put the logo right over here where the header, the text header is. Okay, so for that I need to come back here and I need to open a separate folder to store all my image files. So I'm going to click on the directory and just type image or img, or you can put whatever you want to do, that's fine. Images, img. So the shorter is better for me to reference, so that way I don't have to type long. So now I'm gonna find the logo, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop it right inside, and I'll do it this way. Now what I did was I imported this logo right here. Okay, and we're gonna use that logo here. All right, so let's do that. Now I'm inside of a header, so let's not confuse here, because I want to put my logo inside a header. That's why I name it exactly how it is, so that we know where we are. So since we are editing the header, I need to be inside of a header here. Okay, so I'm going to put the image as an HTML property tag, say image, and put the source, and then you can say img, and then we can say logo. Okay, it's helping me actually type it for me. Now that's basically it. So now if I refresh it and come back, now I should see that logo show up here. Whoa, that's too big, right? Okay, so the only reason too big because we did not set any property attributes like height, width, or we didn't do anything with the CSS and stuff. So that's what we're going to be doing now next. Let's go back, and what we need is either we can give a class name, so we can just say logo, or there's a hierarchy in HTML and CSS. Like CSS has a selector, so basically if you know the parent of the element, you can actually reference by parent. You can just say, hey, I know the header and I want image inside of a header. But the problem is, let's say you have multiple images, then you have to say first one, second one, third one, fourth one, and so on. It might create some problems down the road if your application gets a little complicated. So it's best if you just reference them by class name. So in this case, I'm gonna just say logo. Now I try to keep my my codes kind of by group. So since it is related to headers, I like to keep it all in the same area. That way, later on, it's week, 2 weeks, months, a year, if I want to go back and edit something, then I don't have to look for all over the place. I can just find a header, and I know all the related codes to the header. They're gonna be located close by, basically. Okay. So I'm gonna say logo. First thing is first, I'm gonna say width. Let's go ahead set up 200 pixels. That's another thing that you may want to learn is the screen has a pixels. You can go by either pixels or you can go by percentage. Every screen, if you look at it, the bigger they are, the more pixels they're going to have. So they have the width and height. So I'm going to say height. Let's go ahead and do 100 pixels. Now we'll find out just a second. Actually, we can be edited online. So if I refresh it, now as you can see, it's smaller, but still quite not still there. So what I can do is I can edit these on screen. So just click here, and now I can just keep extending the width. I think that's going to look a little bit much better now. Okay, good. So looking good now, so much better. So I'm going to go ahead and do this 300. All right. So I'm going to come back to code. And remember, by changing here, it's not saving in your code. It just basically helps you to visualize on screen. Because by looking at it, you're just taking a measurement. Basically it's taking a guess, okay? But here, this is accurate. It's basically, hey, you know what? I want 300, I want 400. So then you have to come back to your code and change that. So in this case, I'm going to change it to 300. So now the change is permanent. So I also noticed a couple of things. Is like not much space on top, left, and the bottom. So I like to add a little bit, little space. So those space called. If you want to add space outside, it says margin. So margin, basically, you can just say margin, and then let's add the 10 pixels all around. Now, if there's a space inside of an element, in this case, image does not have a inside, but if there's a box, div box, span, or p paragraph, then you can just say padding. You can add a padding, but in this case, image does not use the padding. So I'm going to go back and refresh. Okay, so now as you can see, it added a little bit of space here now. But the only thing is, since we have a set height in the header, it's basically our image is basically overflowing. It's as you can see, on top of the content. So one way we can do that is get rid of the height, okay, or we can just say, hey, I don't want to set any static height pixels. I can just say auto. So what it basically means is, if I come back and refresh, that's basically means anything you have inside your height will be determined by the content of the header. So whatever you have, let's say the height of this logo Uzbekistan is, let's see what that is 100 pixels, then the header of height, the height of the header is basically will be 100 pixel because it's auto extendable. Okay. All right. So to be honest, I really don't like the color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and change it a little bit. So let's go back, get rid of the blue color. Then in this case, let's go ahead, put like a dark. You know what? Maybe I just want to change this here. Maybe dark is fine. And also I want to change the header to something lighter. And something lighter, so let's go ahead and put maybe something like that. I don't know, this is, yeah, that's good. So a little bit lighter now. So I'm going to copy the background, also change the footer background so they're all consistently the same. So now if I refresh it, voila. So now you can see, I'm going to scroll down here. See that? So now we start having something now. This is the image. So let's spend some time on image element here. So in the image, you can add more information. Like for example, I can add the title, or you can just say, I'm going to say alt, and my web page logo. And I explain to you why alt is. So if I come back here and refresh it, Obviously nothing changed, but what the alt does is, let's say for some reason your image path is broken, or image accidentally deleted, or you pointed to wrong image, or the image does not exist, and then look what happened. So if I just change the image logo to something does not exist because I don't have the logo one. So if I come back and refresh it, now instead of seeing that, it basically puts the text. It says, hey, this is my web page logo. It's supposed to be a web page logo. Okay, so if I get rid of the alt altogether here and refresh it, now the text is gone. And you see this. And the people will notice that the image is broken. What it tells you to users, basically, it's not very professional, basically. You know, that means you're not paying attention to your product, to your website. You're not doing the maintenance, you're not paying attention, and you don't have the staff to watch for all this kind of minor, I guess, bugs. Okay, so its proper way is, let's go back, and then you can also put the title. You can just say, this is my official logo. Now if I refresh it now, oops, I didn't change the logo path, so I can go back, get rid of the one, and come back, and mouse over, and you can see the mouse over description right here. So this is my official logo. See that? It's beautiful, right? Okay, so what else we can do is we can convert this to kind of a button, because I'd rather take advantage of every element. I don't want them just stay there by themselves and do nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert to button. So button is the H tag, href, and when someone clicks on that logo, I want them take me home. So slash, which means is the highest, like to the root level, basically anything that is home, basically it's index file. And then I'm gonna go to, so href is a tag. So I already give you a recommendation to use the W3 schools. If you read through those, and it'll explain to you what the a tag is. A tag is the link, basically. So now I can just add the same thing with the title. So I can just say, click here to go to main page. Okay, there we go. Now if I refresh it, now if I do that, look at the cursor changes. Cursor changes to pointer. Now if I click on this, boom, it's clickable. It takes you to the main page, which is this page. I can actually forward to anywhere else if I wanted to. Say if I wanted to take it to Toshmatov.com, for example, right? www.toshmatov.com, and refresh it. Now watch what happens. Now look at when I mouse over on the bottom here, the URL changes. So if I click on this, and ta-da, it takes me to the URL that I just set up. Right? So let's revert it back and just put the slash. All right, we're making progress. So now we're gonna keep the header the way it is. I think it looks good. Okay, and now we're gonna work on the content. So the content, basically, you can put whatever you want. Say I want to have lots of paragraphs, right? So what I usually do is I use the developers use the lorem ipsum. Lorem ipsum is a kind of a dummy text, so that developers, we're kind of lazy sometimes. We don't want to type, and it's not like we don't want to type. We just don't know what to type. And plus, this is bogus. This is something we need a placeholder, like a quick something. Like you can just copy and paste. And whoever invented this, I mean, this person is a genius. I mean, because everyone actually utilized this. All right, let's go back, and then I'm going to go ahead, just do this. Now, if I put it the way it is right now, it's going to show up without any styling. But if I want to copy the styling of that, and I can just go ahead and inspect element. Okay, so then I need to pick this. Okay, so I'm going to copy that HTML, and then we come back here, and we're going to paste it right inside. Look what happened now. So if I refresh my page, whoa, look at that. Now it starts looking like a page now, right? So that's what we want. Look at that. See? You can actually put some images here, so let's find some images. And so we can actually go and find some images here. So first image, I would say, I don't know, mountains maybe? I don't know, I'm just saying. So I'm looking for the mountains, images, and then I prefer something like transparent. So what I'm looking for is the size. You can just actually set the size. You want large, medium, right? So let's say if this is going to be medium, and I want to, you know what, mountain's not working for me, so I'm going to say nature. Okay. Just pick any color. All right, that's much better. All right, let's say that I want to pick this image, one of the images here. So let's say I like this one right here. Okay, right click, you can just save images as, and just say nature, put it in downloads, and then you're gonna have to import that into image. So I'm gonna do that right now. So you come back here, and we just imported that, and then I have this nature JPEG. Now I have to tell, hey, I want to put my image here. So that let's say I want to put it on top of here. So we can do the same thing here, image, source, image, and then we say nature. Now if I want to refresh that, there we go. Now I have this image. All right, I mean, we can do so much here. So, but this is the good beginning. What I'm about to do is we're gonna take a break here, and I think it's good. I will give you time to kind of go back and start from the step one. I just want you to make sure that you're comfortable, and we'll pick it up in our next lesson. I promise you. But for now, what I want you to do is I want you to go back to the first beginning of the video and start at least 1 or 2 times if you don't understand. If you do understand, that's good. And I want you to start creating your own website page, WordPress page. Install your server, set up your virtual host, and create your index page, PHP. And then I want you to at least build something like this. And then we'll pick it up. We're gonna have so much to learn. I can tell you right now, this is just the beginning. I'm telling you. We're gonna do the designing, styling, and then guess what? We're gonna be working with the forms, and then so on. We're gonna be connecting to the database, backend. I mean, we can build whatever you want. Sky is the limit. But let's just not rush. Let's take one step at a time. One thing I don't want is rush and learn something wrong. I'd rather take my time and show you guys very simple steps. Alright guys, really appreciate you joining in this tutorial. Thank you, and see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.